The price of betrayal. Michael had always been a devoted husband, or at least that's what he told himself. He and Sarah had been together for over 15 years, their marriage filled with laughter, challenges, and the unspoken promise that they would always stand by each other. But as the years passed, routine took hold, and Michael found himself yearning for something different. He met Emily at a business conference. She was charming, witty, and had a way of making him feel young again. What started as harmless conversation over cocktails turned into late-night texts, secret meetings, and the kind of passion he had long forgotten. He told himself it was just an escape, a temporary indulgence. After all, he still loved Sarah, didn't he? But affairs have a way of unraveling even the best-kept lies. One evening, Michael returned home to find Sarah sitting at the kitchen table, his phone in front of her. The screen was still lit, displaying a message from Emily. "I can't wait to see you again." Counting down the days. His stomach dropped. His hands went cold. "Sarah, don't," she interrupted, her voice eerily calm. "I just want to know one thing. How long?" He hesitated. A lie might soften the blow, but looking into her eyes, he knew she deserved the truth. "Almost a year." A sharp breath escaped her lips, as if the weight of his words had physically struck her. She nodded slowly, as if piecing together a puzzle that had been right in front of her all along. "Was it worth it?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Michael opened his mouth to respond, but no words came. Was it? The stolen moments, the secrecy, the thrill. It had felt intoxicating in the moment, but now, faced with the destruction he had caused, it all seemed so small, so meaningless. Sarah stood up, her expression unreadable. "I don't want an apology. I don't want excuses. I just want you to understand something, Michael. Trust isn't something you break and tape back together. Once it's gone, it's gone." She walked past him, up the stairs, and for the first time in 15 years, he felt what it truly meant to be alone. Months passed, and Sarah moved forward. She refused to be defined by his betrayal. She took up painting, something she had once loved but had abandoned in the chaos of marriage and motherhood. She found solace in herself, in the quiet moments she once feared. As for Michael, he learned that the price of betrayal wasn't just the loss of his marriage. It was the loss of the person who had once been his greatest ally, his best friend. And no amount of regret could ever bring her back. My thoughts. Wow, this story really hit hard. I think what makes it so impactful is how real it feels. How easy it is to slip into justifications, to convince yourself that a moment of passion is worth more than years of trust. But in the end, betrayal always has a cost, and sometimes that cost is losing the one person who truly mattered. I can't help but feel for Sarah. She didn't deserve this, yet she found a way to turn her pain into strength. And Michael, well, he learned his lesson, but at what price? What do you think? Could a betrayal like this ever be forgiven? Story number 2. Shadows of Deception. Daniel and Olivia had the kind of marriage others envied. At least, that's how it looked from the outside. They were the couple that hosted dinner parties, took vacations twice a year, and always seemed perfectly in sync. But beneath the polished surface, cracks were forming. Cracks Daniel refused to acknowledge. It started subtly. Olivia became more distant, more preoccupied. Her phone, once casually left on the nightstand, was now always in her pocket. When Daniel asked what was wrong, she dismissed it with a tired smile and a simple, just work stress. He wanted to believe her. He needed to believe her. But the signs were there, and they were undeniable. One evening, Daniel came home earlier than usual. The house was quiet, save for the faint sound of Olivia's voice coming from their bedroom. He moved toward the slightly ajar door, his heart pounding. Her voice was soft, intimate in a way that sent a cold wave through him. "I miss you too," she whispered. "I wish we had more time together." Daniel felt like the air had been knocked out of his lungs. He didn't need to hear more. He turned and walked out, feeling his world collapse with every step. For days, he kept the truth to himself. He watched her, studied her, searching for the woman he thought he knew. But now, every laugh, every glance at her phone, every late night at work was tainted. Then, one night, he confronted her. "Who is he?" His voice was steady, but his hands were clenched into fists at his sides. Olivia's eyes widened, then darted away. "Daniel, don't lie to me," he interrupted. "I heard you. I know." A long silence stretched between them before she finally exhaled and whispered, "His name is Ethan." The weight of those words crushed him. How long? 6 months. 6 months. Half a year of deceit, of stolen moments, of Olivia giving her heart to another man while he remained oblivious. He wanted to scream, to demand answers, to understand why. "I never stopped loving you, Daniel," she continued, her voice trembling. "But somewhere along the way, I felt invisible, like we were just two people coexisting. And then Ethan, he made me feel seen. So you destroyed us instead?" He shot back, his anger finally breaking through the surface. Tears streamed down her face, but he didn't move to comfort her. This wasn't his pain to soothe. "I don't know if I can ever forgive you, Olivia," he said, his voice raw. "And I don't think you even realize what you've done. In the end, they didn't survive. Trust, once broken, can never be fully repaired." Olivia asked for another chance, but Daniel knew he would never look at her the same way again. She moved out. He stayed in a house that now felt haunted by memories of a love that had once been unshakable. And as he lay awake at night, he wondered, had they been doomed long before Ethan, or had betrayal simply finished what time had already eroded? My thoughts. This one really got to me. It's one thing when betrayal comes from recklessness or lust, but when it comes from feeling unseen, it's a different kind of heartbreak. You can almost understand Olivia's emotions, even if her actions were unforgivable. Daniel's pain is something a lot of people fear, realizing that the person you love is already emotionally left before you even knew something was wrong. What do you think? Is it possible to come back from this kind of betrayal, or is it a point of no return? Story number 3. Whispered Promises. Anna and James had a love story that felt like destiny. They met in college, survived years of long distance, and built a life together that many envied. They had laughter, inside jokes, and an unspoken understanding that they were in this forever. At least, that's what Anna believed. Lately, James had been different. Distracted. His kisses, once filled with warmth, now felt routine. He spent more time at work, more time on his phone, more time away from her. Anna brushed off her worries at first. Every couple goes through rough patches. But doubt crept in when she noticed how quickly he put his phone away when she walked into the room. One night, when he was in the shower, she picked up his phone. His messages were locked, but the notifications told her everything she needed to know. A text from Lena. "I can still feel you from last night. Miss you already." Anna felt the world tilt beneath her feet. She didn't confront him immediately. She wanted to understand, to prepare herself for the truth. She watched him more closely, noticing the way he checked his phone with a hidden smile, the way he always seemed lost in thought. Then, one evening she followed him. He said he had a late meeting. Instead, he drove to a small bar across town. Through the window, Anna saw him laughing, leaning in close to a woman with dark hair and bright eyes, Lena. Something inside her shattered. That night, when he came home, Anna was waiting at the kitchen table. "How was your meeting?" she asked. James hesitated, then smiled. "Exhausting." Anna slid his phone across the table. "Unlock it." His face paled. "Anna, unlock it." He swallowed hard, then shook his head. "You don't trust me?" "Should I?" she asked, her voice eerily calm. "Or should I trust Lena instead?" His expression crumbled. He opened his mouth, then closed it. There was no way out, no excuse that could erase what she already knew. "It just happened," he finally whispered. "No, James," Anna said, standing. "You let it happen." She walked past him, leaving him alone with the weight of his choices. They didn't break up that night. James begged for another chance, swore he would change. And for a while, Anna believed him. But trust is fragile. Every time his phone buzzed, she flinched. Every time he left the house, she wondered. The love they once had was buried beneath whispered promises that now meant nothing. In the end, she walked away, not because she didn't love him, but because she loved herself more. My thoughts. This story really highlights the painful reality of betrayal. Sometimes, the worst part isn't even the act itself. It's the loss of trust, the constant doubt that follows. James thought he could fix things, but trust isn't something you glue back together overnight. I admire Anna's strength. She gave him a chance, but she also knew when to walk away. That's something a lot of people struggle with. What do you think? Should she have stayed and tried to rebuild, or was leaving the only real choice?